Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy Wade D of Dream Slab Productions. Today we're going to talk about loops and samples. For those that don't know, I consider myself a producer, composer, songwriter, and on a producing standpoint, I was never really a strong sampler. It was something I always struggled at. So to challenge myself a couple years back, I started a series here on YouTube called Sample Sunday. So what Sample Sunday is I challenge myself to find a sample, make a song, and shoot a video, all within a 2-week period, and then start it over for X amount of episodes. When I started, I had very ambitious, lofty goals, and by the time I finished, I hit a lot of the milestones I wanted to hit. I became a better sampler. I was able to find when something was going to sample well. I can easily think of the parts that were going to surround it and what it was going to do and sound like as a finished product, all just from hearing the sample. And really the only thing that made me better at it is forcing myself to do that challenge and assigning myself that task to get better at it. So to piggyback off that, a lot of my friends in a similar space have been telling me about Arcade by Output. Now, I know I'm late to the party, probably about a year or so, something like that. But I figured now's the best time to see what the hype's about. So I went out, I downloaded the plugin. There's a free trial for 30 days, and then it goes into the subscription model of $10 a month. For those that don't know, Arcade is Output's venture at the ever-growing online loop sample market, trying to compete with big names in that area such as Splice, Sounds.com, and there's quite a few out there. So it's a nice saturated market. However, you know, when it comes to creativity, you can't be oversaturated. So the more options, the better. You go out there, you find what works for you. So what makes Arcade unique is it isn't just loops and libraries, but it's actually clever virtual instruments with effects and other tools built in to help you keep creating on the fly. It works like any other plugin, but it does require internet connectivity so that you can download the new content, access the library and whatnot, but the stuff you downloaded is available offline when you are away from your internet connection. Full disclosure, I have spent about 2 hours with it just so you guys don't see me fumbling like, oh, how do you press play? How do you access these things? So I know my way around the interface enough to be dangerous, but I'm still gonna call this a first look because I didn't deep dive in it yet. All right, so let's go to the computer. As you can see, I'm a machine guy, so we're gonna run Arcade as a VST inside of machine. So we're gonna bring up the interface and the feed and how it works. Now, I mentioned I'm a machine guy because that's how I had to wrap my head around this whole program. You have your feed that tells you what's new and what's going on. Think of lines as expansions or different sample packs that all have their own characteristic and style, 80s, 70s, distant voices, virtuosos, etc. Then you have your kits, which is a gathering of loops inside those said styles. And then of course you have your individual loops that you think of like samples, etc. I mentioned that because as I navigate around this, I do have to keep that in mind so I fully have an understanding of what's going on. All right, so let's just go through a couple things and get an idea of things. I don't know what the exact count is. It looks like there's like a good 20 instruments here, or VSTs of lines that they have going on, and they update them very frequently. I always get emails and whatnot about what's going on with it, even just in my 30-day trial state. So that's really cool that they do stay on top of this. And when they release new things, it isn't always just, oh, this is our new line or new expansion. They update the expansions they already have along with creating new things as they go forward. So I do give them kudos for that. As you can see, you can just download everything in the expansion here. You can like, favorite, or whatever. Sorry, YouTube on the mind. You can play samples of an idea of what kind of sounds are in there. So that kind of sounds very cinematic. Raw takes. Let's mess around with this here. So it does tell you a little bit about it up here. You have your little filter group here. You can search. You know, you do get more options, which you can say show more and whatnot here. Okay, obviously I played this one before, so before I do that, actually, as you can see, we're in a browse section. You can download the kit Once again, listen to the things in the individual kit. They kind of give you an idea, favorite, use it for later. All right, go from there, hit play. It brings up the interface. All right, so it tells you what line you're in, which is raw takes, what kit you have currently selected in that, what key it's in. Now, if you are using this in your DAW, I use Pro Tools and whatnot, and you have it set, it'll automatically sync it to session key. You can select this and it'll bring it up in there. Or you can change it, your major, your relative minors, etc. One thing I do like about this with this whole key selection is it tells you the sample's natural key, and sometimes you want to move the sample up higher. But say if I went to A minor, it would just bring it down 2. So I like that it tells you, +5 to -6 of where you're moving the sample to get it into the realm of what you like. I think that's a nice touch. And of course, you can even shift it up an octave no matter what key that you have selected. Also a nice touch. All right, you can sync the tempo to your session tempo as well. You can play half speed, double speed, etc. Input quantize, set your voice limits, all that jazz. They give you 4 effects based on what they think really works for this particular kit. So in this one, they have like a lo-fi, delay and tone, wet, and old cassette. And it changes per everything. So just because you have raw takes and you're using this particular kit in this line, it isn't always the same effects. All right. So to keep moving on as we go down the interface, the white keys are the loops, the black keys are the modifiers. So just to give an example, let's pull up my system and machine. All right, you can hold, say, this E2 key. It goes from C2 to C4. E2 key, hold this. Let's do something melodic. And and you have an edit screen down below. So for this particular modifier, plays it at half speed, normal, but it can reverse. You set your loop points, which is kind of cool. And like that, you can also edit on the loop itself. You can add a filter, your volume, pan, your attack, release, crossfade in between. You can change the format and things like that. You can play it in reverse, forward, back, forward once, then backwards afterwards. Just keep looping once the key is held down. Or you can just hit it once and it'll play out like a one-shot. Tells you the tuning adjustments, so on and so forth. You also have effect sends, which is kind of cool. You can set those permanently. You can go in here. You have a mixer window. Your 4 effect sends here. Your master effects, pan and whatnot. Go in here. These are those 4 macros that they have on the main interface and how they correspond to what's going on in there. And your LFO that you can use to control other parameters. So it is really cool and thought out how they did go about that. And it does leave a lot of option for creativity, which I really do like, where other sample libraries are just like, here's your samples, you do all the rest yourself. Output took one step further and say, hey, we have samples. We also have suggestions on how you could play them. And if you don't like that, here's a whole bunch of stuff to just mess everything up and really make it your own. So that's really cool, and that's one of the things that makes this really unique. So let's play through a couple sounds. I like doing it with the edit window open so you kind of know what's going on in here. Now, one thing I do think that Output does really well is vocal chops, guitars, things in reverse. When I think of Output, that's kind of like what they're known for. So they do have like a vocal chopped kind of, what is it again? Line, like I said, called Hooked. I feel like Hooked is their most popular one. Everyone usually sees this one in the demos and the commercials, just because whatever Output does to vocals, something magic happens. I don't know. So let's listen through a couple of these. Now, as you saw, and I don't know if this is just for me, but it started playing the demo of whatever I was on raw takes. It doesn't always update. So we're on One Day Soon. If I hit wholesome, there's like a delay. I don't know if that's just me, but something to be mindful of.
I just want you, I just want you, I just want you, I just want you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Spend all my time.
So when I think of like these type of things in vocal chops, those are like already you're putting like finishing touches and creative sprinkles on something you already have working on. Rarely would I go this way when I'm starting from scratch. Everybody's different. There's no real right way. That's the cool thing with loops. So what I want to do is take some time, find some stuff, and see if we can do something from scratch. Let's see. Okay, so I found something that I do have. Maybe it's because I don't know how to use it, but I took off a sample off of one loop because you can't like drag and drop. What I want this to do is have this somewhere else so I can then hit different sample points. Now I do know if you use this effect, you can set cue points or jump to points, but I want to have more control over that. So I would just like to copy, paste, but you can't really do that. So my workaround that I feel I found, and once again, like I said, I've only spent 2 hours with this, is you go to browse, you go to loops, you typed in the sample that was here, which is this, weathered guitar, strident strums. You go to browse, you type in, I typed in weathered guitar, strident strums. You hold this little thing, and then I drag it to my empty one. That's a little cumbersome, I feel like. I mean, I know it's a whole VST and a whole thing and whatnot, but there should just be like a right click copy paste. Like you can remove. You should be able to copy paste some of these and move these around. Yeah, that's weird. I'm trying to click and drag, you can't. I could have sworn when I was messing with this before you could have. But anyways, random thing as I'm sitting here messing with stuff. I kind of like that. I wonder what these sliders do for this. Other people who are a machine, if you don't know this, if you expand this little window and you go to pages, you can set your own pages for what you want, and you can set your own MIDI commands for those. So real quick, if you just go to learn, it'll highlight the first knob, slide this, knob 2, slide that, I'm trying to put it back to where I found it, knob 3, slide that, knob 4, slide that, then unlearn. I now have access to those on my machine. So didn't know if people knew that already. I didn't until I started messing around with this. So figured that would help someone else. So if we take those 3 samples, as you can see, you can play stuff at the same time. See what these do. Well, obviously, oh, it ping pongs it too. That's pretty cool. Obviously, delay and reverb are self-explanatory. Let's try it with dirt. Just give it some high content. Some type of distortion? High resonant filter? I don't know. Oh. Okay, that makes sense. Vibe, phase, vibraphone. I don't know. Still cool. Let's mess around with this for a second and just see what happens here. Alright, enough of that. Let's see what else we come up with. Ooh, this has like a really nice minor vibe to it. We'll save that one for a later date. All right, so what I did is I took the video I did last time, link above, and I pretty much took the exact same samples as what was in the last video. I decided to rearrange them and do it differently. What I ended up doing as far as arcade is using the line Distant Voices, the kit Captivation. Hey, I held on to that, glad I remembered. And threw in some vocal elements that are soaked in reverb, and they have a real life of its own. And like I said, man, Output does a great job with like vocal chops. Like I can't think of anyone else off the top of my mind that like does vocal chops and whatnot as well as Output. So I'm gonna do another live video of that, and I'll probably end with that. But before I get to that, just my final thoughts on Arcade. Arcade is unique. Arcade is original, is dope. Is it for everybody? No, probably not. But it covers a lot of ground, and it's a great type of software to really get creative ideas out fast. And if you can wrap your head around the interface and everything like that, it is a very useful tool. When you already kind of know what you want and what you're going for me personally, it isn't as quick and easy as I would like it to be. But like when I just have a blank slate and I'm just open to everything, this is kind of going to probably be my new go-to. All right, everybody, I'm going to let you guys listen to the beat I made using Arcade, and it pretty much goes to show like how much you can do when you have different sounds and things to work with that you didn't have before. It can really make you think differently. Anyways, once again, my name is Wade D of Dream Slab Productions. You guys have a good one and keep making music.